It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission really is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. In this episode, we have the one and only who's in the building, Paula R Jenkins, and she'll be talking about how to lead without losing yourself, but more importantly, how to show up like you mean it. That'll be interesting. What's going on, Paula R Jenkins? How you doing?
I am well, Shay. It is a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for being here, by the way, and shout out to LaWanda Bradford. She's one of a kind, and I'm glad she connected us. And thank you for you, the viewers. Thank you for tuning in. You have a lot of choices, and you choose to be with us. So thank you. Let's jump right into it because you have this topic, which is how to lead without losing yourself. But more importantly, you talk about show up like you mean it. First of all, what does an LL Cool J does that even mean? Because we're all curious. Show up like you mean it. What does that mean? And number two, why is that so important for entrepreneurs these days?
Great question. Yeah, so show up like you mean it starts with having courage to stop pretending you're someone that you're not. And I think so often we see so much on social media. We see so much in our different environments, and we think we're supposed to be like this person, like this person. At the end of the day, no, just show up as yourself. We put a lot of energy and effort in trying to be other people, and the only person you really know how to be is you. And I think even more particular for entrepreneurs, we sometimes have it really tough because we see people who are successful, what we view as success. We don't know what it took them to get there. We have no idea. And so part of it is recognizing that you have to do the work for yourself. I'm a real big believer in networking and talking to people and learning from other people, but we can't be other people. So showing up like you mean it means showing up like yourself. We don't need to shrink. We don't need to pretend. Be you. Do you.
Be you. Being you is beautiful, by the way. Before we get into your backstory and tell folks how famous you are and all the wonderful things you've done, I'm sure they can Google you. Some people have already read your bio and all that. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I know there was a defining moment in your life, if I can say it like that, where your health became a wake-up call that really changed your life. What did that moment teach you about leadership and success? And for those folks that don't know about the health challenge, if you don't mind, can you give them a preview or give them a little backstory so they kind of understand it, and you can frame that conversation for them, please?
Absolutely. So it happened. I mean, I know the date. It was October 17, 2017. It's two numbers, and those two numbers were 180 over 140. Now, for a lot of people, you immediately say, well, that's blood pressure. Yeah, that was mine. But more importantly, it was high blood pressure. There is a chart that actually shows those numbers where it says critical and death. And in essence, my doctor said, if you don't change your work environment, you're going to die. And I will be honest, those are those moments when you recognize, did you just say I'm going to die over my job? Yes, that's what I said. And so for me, that was my defining moment is I was in corporate America, had been for almost 2 decades, and I recognized it was time for a change. And within 3 months of that conversation, I decided it's time to go. It's time to leave. And while I will be honest, I didn't necessarily have the best plan. I had some kind of a plan leaving, but it was the moment when I realized there is no more. And if nothing else, when we talk about showing up like you mean it, it's that moment when somebody says you're going to die over a job.
And yet you're here now. You were able to, bounce. I say use the word bounce back, but you were able to start up and get back going again. I'm sure it wasn't something like you woke up the next day and here I am. I'm back, everybody. What was that process like? Because you had to show up every day. It sounds like for yourself first. So
Yeah.
what was that process like getting back into it, if I can say that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So part of it was identifying that I had to take some time to take care of the body. And so part of that was, one of the things I think that is so underrated is leave of absence. I needed time That's a benefit that so many of us have in our jobs. I had to take some time, and I took about 30 days leave of absence to really just process and rest and get my pressure right down. And so that was the first step. And then after that is when you have some time to just sit and be still, you start recognizing, okay, what's next? And I recognized even though I was going to go back, I couldn't stay. And so then I processed, well, what are you going to do next? And honestly, I've always had these two passions. I had a passion for financial literacy and a passion for leadership development. And I decided, you know what? When I go back, the plan was, okay, it's time to become an entrepreneur. And that process wasn't easy either, right? But what I will tell you is having the time to sit and be still and think and process, it allowed me to think about, okay, my next step is entrepreneurship. And so that's what I did. So within 3 months of that initial conversation, I left corporate and I started my own business.
Welcome. Congratulations. Congratulations, by the way. And you talked about leading others. Leadership means different things to different people. And when you hear the word or you use the word leadership, what does leadership mean to you? What is your definition so we can all be on the same page? And then we'll get into how people can be better leaders and how they can lead their teams and so forth. But I guess the first question I have, so we can all be on the same page. What does leadership mean to you? What does that look like for where we are in the world today?
Yeah, so there is a mantra that I use a lot, and I say everything begins and ends with communication. So for me, a leader is one who communicates well, who shows empathy, who understands that they are not going to know all the answers. They know how to raise their hand when they need help. They understand when it is appropriate to be vulnerable. They also understand how to lead, and because they don't know everything, they know how to ask questions. Really great leaders at the end of the day recognize they're not perfect beings, but they recognize they know who to go to. They know when to say, hey, I made a mistake. And they also, whether people believe it or not, are kind people. And the reason I, in particular, say kind is I'm amazed at the number of people on a day to day basis who deal with extremely unkind leaders who they have to report to every day. And so for me, that's what a good leader is somebody who has all of those attributes.
Wow. Congratulations. I love that, by the way. And, you know, leaders have to have difficult conversations. And you talk about what a leader is and what it looks like. How can leaders have, well, give us an example of a difficult conversation for a leader, because I have my own view, but I know there's different levels, but leaders have to have difficult conversations. How can someone have a difficult conversation and still be authentic and still show up as themselves? Because, you know, sometimes well, I got to put on this corporate front or I have to put on my entrepreneur front and be someone that they're really not. So it might be an unfair question, but I'm curious, when you have to have those difficult conversations, how does someone do that and still be authentic, still be themselves?
Yeah. So part of it is what do you want to get out of the conversation? Let's start there. And so sometimes what we don't recognize is when I say everything begins and ends with communication, it is even starting with your body language, your tone, your facial expression. So before you've said even one word, right? Think about how we show up. So first it's going into the conversation, recognizing how you show up matters. Now, how do you have the conversation? I always say before you have any tough conversation, pause, pause. Take a moment. Think about what you have to say, what needs to be said. Think about those. I always say, what are the top three things you got to say in the conversation? Think about what the responses may be. Because here's the thing, too often we go in so hard on people in these conversations. And unfortunately, we end up doing a disservice to not only them, but to ourselves. One of the things we have to do is recognize whatever our message is, we can still convey it clearly, right? With authority, but we don't have to make people feel like crap. We don't have to be, what I call extremely, and I mean this violent, because I've heard some stories of violence and screaming at people. We don't have to do that. Tough conversation, specifically an example, is when we have to give feedback to somebody. A lot of people do not like giving feedback. I recognize that. But people need to receive feedback. I believe feedback is a gift. And so you can agree with it or disagree with it, but it's feedback. And so that's somebody's perception or they have experienced you in some way. So having the conversation where we have to give that is let's prepare by understanding what we have to give, prepare for what some of the responses may be, And then once you have that conversation, is I always say, assess how you did at the end. Ask the person, right? Ask them how they are feeling. Ask them, have they received the message? There's really importance to making sure that when we communicate, and I'm gonna say this again, everything begins and ends with communication. I do not say that lightly. I say that because when we have these difficult conversations, it's one of those things that we just have to do, you all. We just have to. And I've been told over the years, Paula, you love having, hard conversations. I said, actually, I don't. I'm just really good at it now because I have practiced it over the years. I actually don't like them, but I'm not afraid of them and I can handle them because I recognize that it's part of whatever process I am doing. An entrepreneur, a client, a teammate, a friend. Sometimes you just got to have them and you've got to get comfortable with it, even when it's hard.
And you talked about the conversation, you talked about listening, you talked about what you say, when you say it, and how you say it in so many words. There's this two-part term out there called emotional intelligence. How does that all fit into this whole leadership and communication? And so, for folks that are listening, a two-part question. She can handle two parts, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, what is emotional intelligence? It's kind of thrown around a lot. And number two, how does that factor into listening and hearing and having, relevant conversations as a leader?
Yeah, so now you're talking my language. So emotional intelligence, at its core, it is about how we understand our own emotions and what we do and how we show up, whether that is in our self management, social management, self recognition, or social recognition. At the end of the day, I always say it starts with self awareness. Emotional intelligence is, are you aware of how you show up? So again, showing up like you mean it, but are you even aware? Whether that is in your own space or when you're dealing with others. And then when your relationships, again, whether it's personal or professional, how are you showing up? One of the key things I said earlier was what's really important to me as a leader is empathy. And part of that is that management of how we deal with people. Emotional intelligence, I hear a lot of people say, oh, that's a soft skill. And I cringe when I hear that. It's not about soft or hard, it's a skill. It's a leadership skill. It's a skill that we all need and we all should be taught and we all should be focused on it because when we are not aware of how we show up, when we are not aware of what is happening, even from our responses to people, there's an impact. There's something that I say a lot, especially when I speak, and I tell people the story of how I used to go from 0 to 100 in zero point 0.2 seconds, and I would snap. Um, and what I recognize that doesn't do anybody any good. And so one of the things I have started to do is I say I pause, I breathe, I think, and I react. And recently somebody said instead of saying react, say reflect. I'm good with either one. But the point is that's emotional intelligence. It's me being very aware that unfortunately I would, as I used to say, I would pop off. And that was not good, especially as a leader. And so part of it is recognizing that from an awareness perspective, I needed to work on that. And I've grown tremendously in that area. And so this is again where emotional intelligence comes into play is nobody is perfect. None of us are. So we always can grow. And understanding what area of that emotional intelligence you need to work on, that to me is critical when it comes to being a leader. Absolutely critical.
Good example, by the way. Thanks so much for sharing that example. One of the things that you've talked about that I think is important is that you've got to find time for yourself as well. And what's the one thing that you would say to an entrepreneur who's listening right now and says, okay, she says do all these things, Shay, but as an entrepreneur, how do you make sure you take care of yourself? I know this might not be a fair question, but they're like, man, I got to make sure this person take care. I got to make sure I say it this way. What does she do to slow down, to take care of herself, her own mental health bill? And I know it's not a mental health type of call here, but I'm curious, how does that factor into the emotional intelligence and the factor into how we're listening? So the question I'm asking is, how does an entrepreneur who's already so busy, how do they find
Yep.
time to slow down and take care of themselves? Any suggestions?
Again, great question. Yes. And so part of this goes back to part of emotional intelligence is self management. How are you managing yourself? And so part of that is boundaries. I'm amazed, and let me just say, I'll raise my hand, right? I'm amazed at how often we all say one thing, but we clearly don't have boundaries sometimes. And so I've had to learn over the years, and again, been in business 8 years, and I recognize my boundaries have changed over time. We've got to start there. We can't allow people to have access to us at all times. No, that's number one, is recognizing what makes sense for you. A lot of people who know me recognize that before 10 a.m. and after 10 p.m., I do not answer calls and I do not answer text messages unless it's an emergency. And the reason why that's important to me is those are my boundaries. Before 10 a.m., I need Paula time. I need time to set in and get ready for my day. After 10 p.m., whether I'm up or not, I don't want to engage in any conversation, again, unless it's critical. So for me, let's just start with the boundaries, being very aware of what your boundaries are. And then, yes, I know we all throw around the word self care, and I'm going to keep saying it myself. Yes, self care is important. It just is. And what does that look like for you? That's what you have to think about, whether that's a nap, it's reading, it's going for a walk, it's traveling. For some people, it may be shopping. I don't care what it is. But what I do know is you have to do something. And for me, a lot of what I talk about is, from for my own self care is yes, it's walking. Yes, it's making sure that I listen to music. I'm an R&B queen. I love my R&B music. It's reading. And as I've gotten older, I can't read as well. So part of what I do is I listen to audiobooks. But whatever it is, you have to make sure you take that time to do it. And the other piece of this is, especially for entrepreneurs, as much as yes, our business is our babies, it is our babies, it is our babies. But if you don't take care of you, let me be very clear that business, unfortunately, may go by the wayside if something happens to you. Now, again, if we have the processes in place and we have somebody step in, that's great. But my point is, what I'm saying is, we still want to take care of ourselves so we can be here to enjoy the successes of our business. So we have to make sure that, again, find what that self care routine is and make sure you put those boundaries up so everybody around you understands as well.
I love it. Well said. And you wrote the book, Show Up Like You Mean It. I'm curious, what's the one takeaway? There's a lot of takeaways, but what's one message you'd want someone to remember and use long after they finish reading the book? So, ladies and gentlemen, she's going to talk about at the end how you can get the book and all that, but she's the author of Show Up Like You Mean It. You're going to get the book, you're going to read the book, and she's going to share what's one of the takeaways she wants you to have after you read the book. Talk to us, please.
Yeah. So, one of the things, and I'll just show the book, I think what's really important, and somebody has already messaged me when the book came out, is there's a quote and some things I say about um, stop shrinking, and stop staying in places way past their expiration date. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times, for a lot of us, we stay at places way too long, and we recognize we probably should have left, years ago. And what ends up happening is sometimes you continue to shrink in that environment because it's not the right place for you. And so we have to learn that we don't have to shrink. We can find environments, we can start our own, but whatever it is recognizing when I say, again, the whole theme of this is show up like you mean it, live, lead, and speak your truth. Be aware of that. So the takeaway really is stop shrinking. I want people to show up as themselves. When I say be you, do you, I mean that. Part of this is don't think that you have to be somebody else. I think we get caught up so often in titles, we get caught up in salary and positions and all of that, but we lose ourselves. What I want us all to be able to do after reading this book is truly live and lead authentically. One of the other things I'll just say is, I continuously have talked about how I am unapologetically Paula. And I don't say that to be cocky. I don't say that in any way to mean anybody else. What I'm saying is I don't apologize for who I am. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I don't need to grow, but I will never apologize for showing up as I am. I know enough because of my EI, emotional intelligence, my self awareness that I'm still growing, but I will never apologize for being who I am. And that's what I want people to be able to do after reading this book is be able to say, I'm going to be unapologetically insert your name. That is what I want for everybody.
I love it, by the way. I love it. And Woody, you sound so passionate. When she gets going, you guys can hear the passion. You get her going, you got to slow her down a little bit. I'm curious, what do you enjoy most about what you're doing? You get a big smile on your face. She's over there laughing. Like, she's genuinely was excited to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, seriously, like, she's like, I'm ready for today. Like, I can't wait to talk to folks. So, what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days that keeps you so excited, so revved up?
That's another good question. It really is its impact. When you can get people who literally have read maybe the first chapter and have already said, "Oh my gosh, I can hear your voice," or "I've already made some changes," or "I needed to hear that." That's impactful. And so, my whole thing with all of this is I'm trying to change the world one conversation at a time. I don't say that lightly. I say that because I really do believe when you talk to people, you can impact them. And even if it's a small change, it's a change. And so what excites me is recognizing that the words that I have put, and it took me a long time to finish this book, that if it can help people one by one conversation, hear conversation, that's a powerful thing. That's what brings me joy. And I am. It's funny you said the word passionate. I am. I'm very passionate about this. And it excites me because I have seen the change. I recognize what it can do to somebody who can say, I didn't necessarily know my voice mattered. I didn't know that all this experience it's coming out because now I feel good about showing up. That is powerful. That is something where it's not about Paula. It's about what is the impact that somebody has, and if they attribute it to me, great. I'm grateful. But what I am more excited about is this person now gets to go out there and say, because of what I read, because of what you do, I'm showing up as a different person, and I'm showing up like I mean it. That's powerful. You can't help but be excited.
I love it, by the way. I love that. One of my favorite questions I like to ask when I have a few minutes, and I got a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And we'll frame it for the audience. I'll pre-frame it for them so they understand you've read so many books in your life, you probably can't remember all the books you read. You've had more mentors, I'm sure, along this journey of life. And, shout out to all your mentors. If you're like me, you probably watch more videos. I mean, 10,000 hours, that's a joke now because you can do that with a thumb easily on the weekend. So my question really is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given that you just want to share with the audience and pass on? What would it be?
Yeah, I'd probably say it was probably while I've been an entrepreneur. Someone once has said to me, uh, why are you treating your business like a hobby? And immediately I was it was like, whoa, that kind of hurt. But I understood what they were saying is I wasn't taking it as serious as I needed to. And I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we do things that, especially in the early days, let me say that in the early days, we really do things that, um, whether accurate or not, we do some things that unfortunately take us down the wrong path. And we don't put the energy in the right places. And so for me, the advice of stop treating your business like a hobby and treat it like a business, it woke me up. It made me realize I was treating it like a hobby. And that was everything from the processes, lack of processes, to how much I was charging or not charging, what clients I was taking or not taking. It made me kind of wake up and say, okay, this isn't a hobby. This is my business. This is my livelihood. And this is really important to treat it. So for me, it really is advice that I was given as an entrepreneur.
Well said, by the way. When you're not out saving the world, not out doing emotional intelligence, not helping people show up like they mean it, what do you do for fun? What does fun look like for you?
Ooh, well, fun for me, I will be honest. It's really three things.
Okay.
It's I love to read, I really do. And again, audiobooks is my thing now. I love listening because it's just easier. I love listening to music. I really do. It is calming to me, and so R&B music is my thing. And I love to travel. It is one of those things that I have found over the course of my lifetime, that when you go different places and meet different people in their environment, it puts your own life in perspective, but it also allows you to see the world very differently. So for me, it's those three things: it's reading, it's listening to music, and it's traveling.
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to let her leave you with the traveling part because that's amazing. Listening to music is amazing. She's going to share one place I'm sure that she enjoyed traveling to. I mean, I'm sure there's a destination that she either wants to go to or been to. And so she's not going to leave us hanging, I promise you. So I'll ask the question for all of you who are curious. What's one destination you've been to that you just truly love? Can't wait to get back to again or you want to go to?
Okay, so where I have been, I actually love Aruba. I really do. I love Aruba. I've been 3 times, and I'm waiting to go back again. I love it. It's a tiny island, but it is a beautiful place. The people are beautiful, and I love it. And I'll throw in another place. I went to Ghana last year and went with a group of my book club members actually, and it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And that was an experience that was life changing. So those are the 2 places I've been and I enjoy. And I have a very long list of other places that I will be getting to hopefully in the next few years.
I've been to both of those places, and I love it, by the way. Aruba's amazing. Good choices. As we come down the home stretch, 2-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, if any? I'm not sure if you're taking on clients. And number 2, where can people connect with you? They're like, whoa, I like this. I want to stay in this conversation, Shay, over and beyond today. Is there a website I should go to? Is there a social media site? Like, what should I do if I'm watching right now? Please share with the audience.
Absolutely. So the types of clients that I'm looking for now is it's combination. It's those who understand the power of personal development and leadership development. And what I mean by that is organizations, but also those in roles who can say, hey, we need to bring somebody in to help our team, our managers, our executives understand how to show up like they mean it. Again, I don't say that lightly. So often we have a lot of people in roles that honestly are shrinking. And it is amazing what happens when these executives and managers and leaders don't shrink anymore. You get far more out of them and they are far more happy. So definitely looking for those organizations and individuals looking for somebody to help them come in and show them how to show up. In terms of how do you connect with me, so the best place right now, it's all about showuplikeyoumeanit.com. That is where the book can be found. You can find out more information about me and resources. You can also connect with me on all my different social media places. I'm really big on LinkedIn, and so you can certainly find me. Again, go to showuplikeyoumeanit.com. The link is there. But that is the best place for me right now. And my hope is when you get there is that you not only buy the book, but it's really more about use the book. I always say I'm very grateful for people to support, but what I want people to do is do the work.
You got to do the work. You got to show up and do the work. Thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Can't wait to connect with you again and meet you in person soon.
Thank you.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you showing up. Appreciate you sharing this link with other folks out there. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. You just finished talking to the one and only Paula on the other side. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. God bless and keep doing God's work. Peace. We out of here.